Okay, this is going to be a video on doing a portrait, starting with an underdrawing. So we're going to start our underdrawing with roughly an egg shape. Sometimes this is a little bit hard for people. So notice our egg is sitting on the point. If this is a little bit challenging to just do at a go, and I'm going to make it a little more visible for you. If that's challenging to just do all at once, you can do a circle and then add this kind of rounded triangle to the bottom. All right, once you've got your egg shape, you're going to split it in half down the center. So that's your line of symmetry. If it's not looking even on both sides, fairly symmetrical, then you want to make any changes you need to make in order to get it symmetrical. All right, next up, I am going to use my fingers to find how long this is, and I'm going to roughly estimate where I think the middle point is. And then I'm again going to use my fingers to kind of see, okay, did I get that at the middle point? Or if I didn't, do I need to move that up or down a little bit? If your measurement is not perfect, because we are kind of eyeballing it, it's better to have it a little bit on the lower side than the higher side. So mine looked like maybe it was just a little bit too low, so I can move it up, but just slightly. So again, we don't want to move it too far up. We want this to be halfway down or a little bit lower. All right, and so I'm going to put a line right through there. All right, we are going to also add a rough version of a neck and shoulders. We can adjust these later if we need to. We want to make sure that the neck isn't too skinny. So it's going to be slightly skinnier than the width of the head, but not all that much skinnier. And then our shoulders, we can put a little angle like so. That's going to be our little connecting muscle there. And then an almost flat line, just sloping slightly, and probably just going right off to the edges of the page. If we were to see the edges of this shoulder, there are about 3 heads that fit across the shoulders. So if you drop a line down, that's head 1, and then if you take your fingers and shift them over to the side, my shoulder would end over there. So if I were to actually draw that on, it would be over here, and it would kind of curve on down to something like that. All right, and then over here, obviously, it's not going to fit on the page. So these are not fitting on the page, but just to kind of give you that idea. So 3 heads fit on shoulders. Or the shoulders are 3 head widths across. All right, so continuing with this, we've got this line. This is actually going to be our halfway line, we know, and it's also going to be our eye line. All right, so lower than you might have expected. All right, next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to break up this lower part into where I think the halfway point might be. All right, and then I'm going to actually move that up a little bit. So if this is halfway, so half of the half would be a quarter, we're actually going to put our marking a little bit up from that. So a little bit up from that 1/4 marking. This will be my nose. All right. I'm going to also put in a line here, and this is going to be my brow line. So we're just going to eyeball that a little bit. So I don't have a an exact measurement right now for that, but that's going to be my eyebrow line, brow line. All right, I can then take my measurement from my nose line, so remember that was a little bit up from that 1/4, and I'm going to measure from there up to my brow line. And I'm going to use that to help me find the hairline. So that should be about there. And if I extend this out here, I can write hairline. And I can make a little bracket from the hairline to the brow line. That's going to be 1/3 of the face. So not necessarily the whole head, all right, because we still have head up here. And then our next third was where we started, so the brow line to the nose. All right, so that's 2/3. And then if we take that same measurement, that should take us all the way to the bottom of the chin. And that would be our final third. And again, this is of the face, not the head. All right. Next up, we had our 1/4. All right. We can divide that space again in about half. So, and again, I can measure. Looks like I need to move it down just a little bit. All right, maybe up just a little bit. All right, so this is from the 1/4. All right, so about halfway, this would be 1/8. And our mouth is going to sit on top of that. So we can put a little oval there. It's a long oval, that's going to be kind of where our mouth is. And then down here underneath the mouth, I'm going to make a circle. It's going to basically come just under or touch, or maybe there's a little bit of space between. That's going to eventually be my chin. All right. So I've got a mouth, I've got a chin, but other than that, this is not looking much like a human. So we're going to come back up here to the eye line. So since it is the eye line, there's going to be an eye. All right, I'm doing a third eye, a center eye. So that's not our actual eye. But we can say that about 5 eyes are going to fit across the head. And so this is a fake eye. And then if I move that same measurement over, there's my real eye. And using that same measurement again, that's going to be, again, my real eye. And then we're going to have about that same amount of space on each side. Now that said, our head is going to eventually change a little bit. But right now, you'll have about room for one more eye. And I'm noticing, oh, my oval must be asymmetrical, my egg shape. So I'm not going to sweat it. I'm just going to add a little bit over there since I had less room on this side. So I could have my 5th eye. All right, so we can say here, 5 eyes across. So that's to help us figure out, are our eyes too big or too small? So if they're too big, 5 eyes won't fit. If they're too small, you could fit a whole bunch. All right, so we can lightly erase that center eye. We won't really be needing that, and we won't really be needing the ones out here, so you could lightly erase those. We are going to need a nose, however. So right in between the 2 eyes, starting at that eye line, I'm going to draw a long oval, long skinny oval. It's not going to quite touch the nose line because that's the bridge of my nose. And then connected to that, I'm going to draw a nice big circle, and it is overlapping with my oval. I'm then going to do 2 more ovals or circles these can be sitting on that same line, or you can draw them just a little bit up from that. All right, so they might be a little bit higher than the bottom of the nose, something around there. These should be as wide as the space between the eyes. So draw a line going down, and that straight line is just going to stay there for a while. All right, I'm now going to go ahead and draw a line connecting my oval to the brow line, and I'm going to draw another line connecting that same point down to the side there. So these two side areas that I just drew are going to roughly represent the two sides of the nose, so sort of that area where the nose slopes down into the cheek. Right. So obviously none of this looks like a person exactly yet. This is my underdrawing. Our eyebrows would eventually sit up here. So if you want to do kind of a skinny oval and then a little angle, maybe add a little triangle there, eventually. That'll be our eyebrow. Notice there's kind of a little arch to the eyebrow that's going to be near the end of the eye on each side. And notice there's plenty of space between the eyebrow and an eye. You should be able to fit like another eye in between the eyebrow and the eye. And plenty of space over here as well. All right, so coming down the face, now we've got our mouth. Okay, so we kind of put a placeholder in here. We're going to call that placeholder, that's going to be sort of our bottom lip, let's say. So then put a line on top of it. I'm going to get rid of this 1/4 line in here because that's not really anything. So I've got the bottom lip, I put a line, that's going to be where the mouth opens. And now I'm going to go ahead and we could do a skinny long oval for the top lip, or sometimes I actually prefer two ovals there, all right, because that gives us a little dip in the center. All right. We can also right now drop down a line from the center of the eye, and that'll be approximately how wide the very edge of the lips would go. So we could draw kind of a line from that little peak that we did out to there. And this bottom oval, notice that bottom oval is the same width as my nose. And you can draw a line angling up to basically that same point. So now that gives it a little bit more of sort of a lip shape. All right, something like that. Okay, but they're all just placeholders. They're not going to stay there. Not looking exactly like that. All right, next up, we need some ears. So before we do the ears, though, we're actually going to narrow this part of the face a little bit because this part of the face does narrow. So I'm going to bring in the sides of the head just a little bit on each side. And I'm also going to create, so right here, starting from the eye line, so I brought in the side of the head just a little bit. So I want it to be symmetrical on each side. I'm still dealing with a little bit of asymmetry here. So maybe I'll bring it in more here and less here because this side was still a little bit skinnier. Maybe I'll bring it out a little bit from where I had it. I want this to be symmetrical. So I'm going to look, does that space look the same as that space? All right, and now I'm going to go ahead and from that point on the eye line, that's like the temples there, I'm going to draw an almost straight line going down to level with the center of the mouth. So before I'm starting this, let's just extend that center of the mouth out. All right, so then I'm connecting the temple to there. How much that angles will depend on the person you're drawing. So it might be almost straight up and down if the face is more square shaped, or it might be more angled if the face is very triangular or heart-shaped. All right, so I moved the temples in, and I can connect this back up. Get rid of, I had quite a bit of extra space over there, maybe just a little bit of extra space over here, since my shape was not exactly symmetrical.